Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Tatha tatha uso bhikkhu viharang kappeti yatha yathassa viharang kappayato Bhaddakang maranang hoti Bhaddika kala kiriyati. Dear friends in Dhamma, so yesterday actually we started the interesting topic, how to have a noble death. So some are already interested about having a death. So they were inquiring about the death moment, and many questions are usually there on Chuchititya and death moment and all that things are there. So anyway, so before talking about the death moment or Chuchititya, so what the Venerable Sariputta highlights is actually how we can live our life here in the present life. So that is the one going to take us to a noble death. And it is not that at the last moment that we can control everything. Rather, we are behaving in such a manner so that we are sort of molding our life. We are preparing the causes so that our death will be a noble one, and ultimately if there is a, say, a new birth, so that is also going to be a noble one or better place rather than going to a lower realm. So yesterday we discussed certain factors included in a certain sutta called Bhaddaka Sutta, available in Anguttara Nikaya, Chakka Nipata, where 6 factors are explained. So Venerable Sariputta started with involvement with many activities. So if people are involved with so many activities, one after the other, so then they won't have enough time for themselves, they won't have enough time for meditation, spiritual growth, anything else. So because continuously their minds are engaged. So typically we have a tendency like that. So we want to engage with something. We can't simply take a rest. So people are there like kind of work-oriented, always working. And one after the other, they want to occupy themselves without having any break. And even if they have a break, okay, during that time also they have some work to do. So like that. So basically for us to have some time is important, because that is the time that we can have a self-reflection. Where are we? What am I doing? Am I doing it better? Or is there any way of doing better? Are there any mistakes? Or what are the other areas that I need to improve myself? So that requires fair amount of self-reflection. That requires certain amount of personal time. You can't get involved every time. So you need certain amount of time where you are spending alone. Certain amount of time for your seclusion. So that is very, very important. So if you are involved with too many work, too many duties, one after the other, and sometimes it is not that someone else and say your boss or your superior or someone is assigning you, rather you yourself is inventing, you yourself is trying to occupy yourself purposely so that you feel engaged. So that is what being discouraged here. So is your mind always looking forward for some work, some kind of an involvement? So that is something that we need to check. So if we want to have a better death, so here Venerable Sariputta suggests, na kammaramo hoti na kammarato na kammaramatang anyutto. So one should not always eager for next work, next deed, next act, next task, next project. Rather, if there is something assigned to you, you are doing it really for the best of your ability. And after that, if possible, you are taking a rest and look after about yourself. How about your health? How about your family? How about your spiritual growth? Whatever it is. So some time for yourself. So that is important. Then the second one, it is related to the talk, speech. And when Sariputta mentioned, now if people are so much engaged with unnecessary chattering, maybe gossip, maybe unnecessary chattering, slandering, etc., etc. So the words are really matters, and some are really fond of talking too much. and they don't know how to shorten their speech, and continuously talking for hours, and they have many topics, one after the other. So typically if you go to a kind of a funeral, then you can find such people. So we can hire some of them if you want. So they have interesting topics every time. So continuously keep going on. And they don't know how the next morning also happens. Now breakfast is ready. Keep on talking during the whole night. It's like that. So someone wants to get involved with talking, so you don't know how to silence yourself. And on the other hand, the most important aspect of this is not the mere talking, but how to have a inner silence, where inner chatter is fairly stopped, fairly weakened, and you are not subjected to an ongoing inner chatter. So that requires fair amount of practice, particularly the mindfulness practice help us to have that benefit. Even before you reach very high level Vipassana, insights, actually even mere walking meditation itself can provide you maybe a temporary silence, where you are able to look at certain phenomena, certain sensations available at your souls, but with a silent mind, without any kind of inner chatter. So this is one very important benefit of meditation. On the other hand, even in the samatha meditation, say if you are practicing breathing or you are practicing buddhanusati, whatever. So more and more your mind get calm down, relaxed, peaceful. So inner chatter gets reduced and your mind get concentrated, very relaxed, very calm, maybe very peaceful. So mind is almost peaceful. So inner chatter basically stopped. So as we discussed yesterday, Buddha was someone who really encouraged silence. So there are various other ascetic groups like wandering ascetics, paribrajakas, naked ascetics, nigantas, and many others. So sometimes they prefer Buddha's kind of an association, and Buddha and his disciples sometimes visit those places when they have time. They had a very nice cordial relationship. They haven't have any kind of conflicts as such. Rather, with many different ascetic groups, including the Shramanas, that is the Buddha's group. So they have a very nice relationship sometimes. They have very good conversations. And when Buddha approaches them, so one interesting, advice given by the chief of that particular sect is that please be silent when Gautama is approaching to our monastery, to our whatever the gathering place. He prefers silence. So after he found out that we are maintaining silence, so he may prefer to come and have some kind of a discussion with us. That would be helpful to us. So likewise, Buddha's disciples also, sometimes when Ananda approaches someone, so they are mentioning. So when Ananda is coming, so he is a disciple of the Gautama. So they are the people who really appreciate silence, so please be silent. And as we discussed yesterday, there are 32 topics Buddha discouraged talking, and that includes most of the topics what we are talking today. But on the other hand, Buddha encouraged discussion or talking onto 10 subjects. Those are mostly with respect to the spiritual growth. I mean, here we are talking more on to the spiritual side, not in the mundane sense. So that is related to the talking. And so if we are able to shorten our talk, know the limit, know the time, know whether it is appropriate, and again able to have a kind of peaceful, relaxed mind without inner chatter. So that means we are further growing and can have a noble death. That's another thing. Na bassaramo hoti, na bassarato, na bassaramatang aniyutto. So that is how Venerable Sariputta puts it. Then the third point about the sleep. So some people are addicted to sleeping. They are spending many hours in sleep, And till dawn they sleep, or till morning they sleep. After the meals they want to have a nap, that also gets sleep. And after the lunch, another sleep. At night, anyway, going to sleep. So many things are there. So they are typically wasting time, because we basically have very less time. If we consider our lifespan today, maybe 70, 80 years, and if you calculate the whole thing, we are spending a fair amount of time for sleeping, and we are not using it. So even though we say we are living 80 years, maybe about 30 years we slept. So we have spent fair amount of time in sleep. So if we are using the most of the time in sleep, so that is a disadvantage. So therefore, Venerable Sariputta mentioned, na niddharamo hoti na niddharato na niddharamatang anyutto. If you want to have a blissful death, kind of a noble death, so be awake. So you have to be diligent. You have to be wakeful rather than lethargic, rather than sort of involving too much in sleeping. And then the fourth one, related to the socializing, the last one that we discussed yesterday, socializing. So people are, in general, human beings are kind of social beings, but over-socializing, having so many friends, so many engagements, always looking at this and that, fairly distracted, outward. So that is something happening nowadays. More than even the past. Past they only could communicate with the typical medium. Say if they want to talk, they have to reach someone. Not even there is a telephone. They have to reach that person, or you have to write a letter and then post it. It may come after several days. So that is how the communication was. And then after the invention of the telephone, okay, you can quickly have a conversation. And still very limited. But nowadays, you have so many different varieties of communication, and make you always engage, and you always want to be online. Isn't it? So after coming back to, say, a forest, so we can search, is 4G available? So we are expecting 4G even at Nissarana. So because we are conducting this thing, Zoom sessions, we need 4G. So likewise, now we are fairly addicted to that kind of communications, and without internet, we can't live now. Actually, one of my friends, he is in Ruhuna University, he mentioned, now he was the department head, and he mentioned, actually their internet bill is higher than the electricity bill. So that is how we are living now. So much of information related access. For the university, they need more internet charge than the electric charge. And now without internet, now people can't live. So this is how we are moving forward. And basically, so how much have we get engaged with? So even while you are alone at home, still you are engaged. So that is the difference when compared to our, say, previous times. Now every time our handphone is with us, so always checking that. Are there any new emails? So there are indicators to indicate, maybe a blink, maybe a little sound telling you, okay, there's a new email, there's a new message, there's a like for you, whatever. So always things are there. Always you bring outward. So that's not going to help you. So ultimately you are fully occupied, mind is full congested with so many things, and you are losing fair amount of your time. And the opposite is required, where you have to be kind of na sanganikaramo hoti na sanganikarama rato na sanganikaaramatang anyutto. So Venerable Sariputta mentioned, so have a kind of an attitude, so I want to have an inward life, rather than always getting outward, always distracted, always allowing the mind to get wander. So have a mind which is peaceful, knowing about yourself, be with yourself, grounding yourself, be in the present moment. So it's a completely different path. So the mindfulness practice is for that. So you are more and more with yourself. It doesn't mean that you hate the others, but you are more and more inward, less distractions. And so if you want to have a good death, so therefore when Balsariputta mentioned, so you have to develop a kind of a attitude that you are not too much socializing. Then the next one, the fifth one, it is called Sansaggaramo hoti sansaggarato sansaggaramatan anyutto. Now, sometimes people are there, so they are having fairly close relationships, intimate relationships, and they are fairly involved. Socializing is one thing. Now here, you know that you are attached to someone, you are attached to few too much. Say for example, say as a mother, as a father, how much are you attached to your children? Are you ready to let go? Are you ready to let go? You know how to let go, children? So people are so much attached to their children, to their parents, or to their, say, friends. If you're not getting a kind of SMS or message from your child or your, say, your wife, your husband, your fiance, your fiancée, so you really got, shocked. I didn't get a message. He didn't call me. Didn't receive something today. And you are always waiting for that person. And too much involvement, so much dependency. Say for example, assume that you are having a love affair, and how much your mind is dependent on. Say if you can't see her, so I am talking from the male point of view, so then you feel kind of an upset. It's not a good day. Couldn't have a chat with her. I can't see her. I couldn't see her. This and that. So much of inner boiling going on, inner unsatisfaction going on, unrest going on, hopelessness going on. So you feel like everything collapsed. Fantasies are going on. What has happened? Is there any kind of problem? Because too involved, too attached. Attachment is suffering. I myself gone through it. I can tell you. So it's a real suffering. So it's a real burden to the mind. So you will only understand when you start meditating. So what a relief you have when you have less attachments. So when you have very close relationships, without that person that you can't live, so dependent. Easily you get, really kind of depressed or really mentally weak or mentally shocked as a result of even the slightest change of the other party. Even I think during the, our discussion also I think we discussed. So someone else's little reaction, how it impacts us. So we are so expected. We are having a kind of expected behavior from the other party. Even the slightest change makes us really unhappy. So can you expect perfect kind of a lifestyle or perfect kind of a behavior from yourself? Then how are we expecting a perfect behavior from another party? Impossible. All are human beings, and we all with defilements. And when we are going through with various activities, we make mistakes. And when you are so dependent on a particular person and you are expecting a particular behavior, particularly say parents, they are expecting a particular behavior from their children. Say a husband expecting a particular behavior from the wife, a wife expecting a particular behavior from the husband. So we have that kind of a pre-designed or predefined kind of a view in our mind. So he, she, they have to behave like this. And the moment they don't behave like that, so we get really unhappy. So because it hurts, because you are so attached, and so governing is there, so controlling is there. So that kind of an engagement is real suffering. So the opposite therefore mentioned by Venerable Sariputta, na sansaggaramo hoti, na sansaggarato, na sansaggaramatang aniyuttu. Don't have intimate relationships even with anyone. So it's a difficult task, by the way. So there are very interesting verses in the Dhammapada. Even with the loved ones, don't get closed. You know that one time King Kosala, he asked from his queen. Who is she? Mallika. No Mallikas here, no? So from Queen Mallika, whom are you loving the most? So as a lover, maybe King Kosala is expecting that Queen Mallika would say, mighty king, my life is you, I love more than myself, even though you are the, this and that. But Queen actually said what? I love myself than anything else. True. So King Kosala immediately went to the Buddha because he was so upset about Queen Mallika's answer. So dependent. Very interesting stories are there like that. Now, say for example, there's a Munda. There is a king called Munda. So his beautiful queen passed away, like Taj Mahal story. Passed away, and this king couldn't continue his typical administrative stuff in the kingdom. So he is so loved, beloved wife passed away, queen passed away. And fortunately there is one venerable called Narada ultimately intervened and sort of help him. Otherwise it's a real heartbreak. There are instances that people even die because of this kind of a departure, an accident of the other party, because so engaged, so dependent, so, kind of too much engaged. Difficult to bear when that is there. And assume that sometimes even people go crazy when the other party is completely doing something different, something opposite, or they met with an accident and pass away, they can't bear. It happens. Now I can actually remember, I don't know whether I have mentioned that, during the, that Dehiwala bomb blast, long time ago, I can remember, at that time, there are such many incidents. I am just giving you a simple example. So very nice lady, actually a young girl, about 25 years or something like that. She was, traveling through that, train. She was in that train and she died. And one of our, the senior batchmate is her brother. So I also went to their funeral. And her mother was there, like a pale woman, can't do anything. She has no tears. Because this casket is there, and only the face is shown. The rest is completely covered, and she can't even cry. And then the body was taken and buried, and after a few days she got coma. And after a few months she passed away. Mother passed away. So likewise, when you are too attached, it hurts to the maximum and you can't bear. You can't bear the departure of someone. You can't bear the kind of a change of someone because you are too engaged, too close. You are expecting too much. Very, very difficult. And assume that you have to die while leaving them. Can you do that? Say, during the death moment, if you recall someone you really love, and because of this death, which is unavoidable. Now you have to leave them. What would be your destination? So there are such stories also. There was an interesting story that those are actually during the Buddha's time. That one, I can't remember his name, I think Ananda Situ or someone. So he was engaged not to these people, he was too much engaged to the wealth. So when he was passing, so he couldn't leave it. So where he born again? As a dog in the same premises. So when you have so much of attachment to something, it can be an animate thing, it can be an inanimate thing. If you are too much attached, then you can't leave it even at the deathbed, even at the death moment. If it comes to your mind, it really engages you and bring you to the same level, and you can even become an animal. Very, very, pathetic situation. Similarly, when you are attached to someone and you have to leave, maybe that as a result of something, you can't bear it. And you can't die, while leaving the others, if you are going to die, very difficult. But if on the deathbed, if you consider, okay, are there anyone that, anything or anyone that I can't leave? If you feel that, no, I can manage, I am ready to leave, I have no huge engagements, everyone I have able to give up, able to release from mind, then you may have a peaceful death. It's quite obvious. So basically, it is necessary to have a, kind of a good relationship. But at the same time, we should have some kind of an equanimity to face these kind of calamities, these kind of situations. And are we ready to quickly come back to our real life, even we go through kind of a calamity? That is something, because we all are living in a very, transient world, and we don't know what would be the next moment. And if you can imagine, now we are approaching the December 26th. What has happened? Can you remember? 2004? Just maybe 2 hours, more than 50,000, 60,000 all dead. Within 2 hours. So we don't know, what's going to happen. So we are in such kind of an uncertain world, and if we are attached too much to anything, either material, either to people, too much attachment, too much involvement, too much dependency, so then we are the ones going to suffer, and we can't have a good death. So therefore, we need to understand the reality. So this is the life. So we are in a completely uncertainty. So we need to acknowledge that. You need to accept that bitter truth. So as a result of that, we need to be ready to give up anything at any time. Maybe your parents, maybe your children, maybe your fiance, maybe your husband, maybe your wife. Because unpredictable, uncertain. This is the reality. So, therefore, Venerable Sariputta highlights, so if you are not too much dependent, if you are not too much having any kind of such kind of very strong relationship, then you are free. Basically, you are free. So, you are ready to die at any moment, and you are not having strong attachment to anyone or anything which you can't leave. Say, when you are going to die, and if you are crying because you can't leave your children, you can't leave your husband, you can't leave your, say, wife, can you stop? Can they stop? Or can you stop? Both impossible. No one can stop. When the Mara come and invites you, okay, now it's enough, let's go. You have to let go. Ready to let go. At that time, you can't learn how to let go. Isn't it? You can't ask from someone, now Mara has come, asking me to come with him, how can I let go? Please teach me how to let go. Too late. Too late. So therefore we need to learn how to let go before death moment. So if we are able to have that lesson before death moment, how to let go anything before death, and you are living with that kind of a mentality, even though you are doing your duties and all that to the best of your ability, if your mind is fairly empty, there is no such kind of strong dependencies, if you are ready to give up anything at any time, then you are fairly matured. It's not an easy thing also. On the other hand, say you also collapse, fine. You got shocked. Are you able to quickly recover? So that is the resilience. As we are going through some kind of a situation, tragic situation, if we are able to quickly recover and maintain our normal life as quickly as possible, so that is also really matured. So we have to accept that bitter truth. So other party, okay, something happened. Say your child has done something that you have never expected. Can you bear that? Can you recover quickly and you engage with the rest of the activities? Now say you have 3 children and one child, without your permission, without your consent, say she or he ran away. Can you bear that? Can you recover? Can you quickly come back to your senses and continue your life? So these are interesting things that we need to think. So am I ready to do that? Or am I continuously crying and very difficult. So therefore these things are something that people easily get depressed nowadays because they have so much of engagement, so much of expectations. They expect too much from others that others also can't fulfill. And easily we start too much thinking and ultimately we get depressed. So that too much thinking is the last point which Venerable Sariputta highlights. So now we are coming to the 6th point. Papancharamo hoti papancharato papancharamatang anyutto. Where, say, if one is sort of fond of proliferation, overthinking, so then you are not going to have a good death. So proliferation is the kind of climax of this sutta. So these are sort of, if we order them in ascending order, so the last point, proliferation is involved with all the previous activities. So Venerable Sariputta highlights here the proliferation. So that is the culprit in a way. So proliferation, if you are continuing, if you are someone who likes to proliferate, imagining so many things, predicting so many things, or thinking, obsessing, kind of obsessive thinking, and something haven't happened, but you can imagine it's going to happen. What if going to happen? What if going to happen? So like many ifs are there. So you can think in many different ways with respect to the future. And now things have already happened, but still you are thinking what has happened. You can't change it. It has happened already, but still we are thinking. Too many worries, too many regrets, grievances. Things have happened, but still we are thinking. The person has died already, but still we are thinking. Why can't I save him? I could have done that. I could have done that. Like that. We can think, but not going to help. Things have happened. And future also, we may imagine so many things. It's going to happen this way, it's going to happen this way. They are going to win. He won't come back as the president again. Who knows? But we are wasting time in thinking. So we have spent so many hours in thinking, but she has given the word for someone else. Waste of time. You are fantasizing, imagining, romance and all that, and you are writing letters and poems and everything, and you got the letter, she's engaged. Very interesting. So much of imagination, so much of thinking, fantasizations. And we are a kind of a group who are, fond of thinking, fond of imagination, fond of this kind of fantasizations. A real kind of addiction. We don't know how to silence the mind. So that's why as Vipassana yogis, so this is a very interesting, very, very important message we need to learn. How to calm down thinking, how to minimize thinking. Think only when it is necessary. Don't allow the mind to wander, because wandering mind is an unhappy mind. Wandering mind is an unhappy mind. It will wander in this direction, that direction, many directions, ultimately bring us unhappiness. Nothing else. Wandering mind is an unhappy mind. So our mind is very much built like that. So don't think that, it is my fault. My whole system, our whole human system is built like that. As we last time also mentioned, there's a kind of brain cells or whatever those areas connected together. And when we don't have any focused activity to concentrate, so mind get into that DMN, default mode network. Its function is to have wandering thoughts. Simply getting on to wandering. Thoughts are there continuously, but not relevant. Not relevant to any subject, but mind is thinking. Ongoing thinking is there. So we are used to that. Ultimately something pops up while ongoing this, circulation, and now you get engaged, and now you are thinking. So this proliferation, therefore, is a kind of a situation where our minds, when we get a certain thought, so we can multiply that or we can magnify that in many directions. We are diversifying in a way. It is not a kind of well-directed, a single-directed, well-designed or well-planned thinking. Rather kind of a randomized thinking. We are thinking in this with respect to the past, we are thinking with respect to the future, with respect to present also we are thinking then about our imaginations, maybe someone else's comments. So many contributing factors are there, and so mind starts thinking many different directions. So this is well explained in the Madhupindika Sutta, a well-known sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya. So there Venerable Mahakaccana explains how stepwise this process happens. Chakkunca paticca rupecha uppajjati chakku viññānam tinnaṃ saṅgati passo passapacca vedana yang vedeti tan sanjanati. No, passapacca vedana, till vedana. So when our eye aligns with the form, then the eye consciousness happens, kind of a knowledge happens, that's that knowing part happen, cognition part happen, and then it happens again and again. I form eye consciousness, I form eye consciousness, I form eye consciousness. Continuously for a long time. It happens very rapidly. So then you get the perception, so okay, there are three things. I am here, that is there. I am here, you are there. So I get the wrong notion, okay, there are three things. But that little division, that recognition, itself as the function of the consciousness, we miss that. And we think, I am here and I see you because you are there. Simple example. Now say for example, assume that a dog, this is an example given by Most Venerable Katakurunda Thero. Assume that there's a dog going on a bridge. It's a bridge made up with a log. And now it peaks down, while in the middle, what it see? Image of it, right? Image of it. What he say or what he think? There's another dog. Now if you come to Nissarana, the same thing happens with the, the Rilava, the monkeys. So whenever vehicle come, So they want to check everything and they jump to this, jump to that. Ultimately, they find the side mirror. And they now look at the side mirror. Oh my goodness, there's another monkey. They put the hand from the other side. They always put the hand from the other side to catch the other monkey there. So how the other monkey happens? Because he is seeing, he is the person getting involved. Because he is seeing, he can see that another monkey. So similarly, when I see, so I can see my reflection, or I can see an object because I am there. Because of the consciousness is coming to the effect. But I miss that because of the ignorance and because of the craving. So I don't have that kind of capacity to recognize how this whole situation happens. So I quickly jump to a conclusion, okay, it is there, that's why I see it. Or he is there, that's why I see it. Continuously he is there. Continuously it is there. Instead, thinking that since I see as a kind of a continuous process is going on, that makes that sight to be available as a perception, I can't understand that. So that's so deep. So ultimately the conclusion is there's a contact, and that causes a kind of a feeling now within you. So anyway, so till this feeling, it's a kind of a phenomena going on as a natural order. Then when feeling happens, so now you want to look at it further. You want to recognize what you have felt. Yang vedeti tang sanjanati, yang sanjanati tang vitakketi. And then you want to think about it. What is there? Why is that? Who is that? And yang sanjanati tang vitakketi, yang vitakketi tam prapancheti. Now, when that happens, it is not that single direction you start thinking, but you start manifolding. Your thinking is basically diversified, not in a single direction. Now you are thinking from many different directions. Ultimately, now till this moment, now you are involved. You as a person, you are involved, personally involved. So this is the second part. The third part is the interesting part of this whole situation, where yang papancheti tato nidanam purisang papancha sanya sankha samuda charanti atitanagata pacchuppannesu chakku viññeyesu rupesu. Where Venerable Mahakachana explains, now once you initiate that process, the proliferation process, you are the ones actually initiating that to think in many different directions. But that gets the momentum, that catches the momentum. Ultimately, now slowly the thinking machine starts. Thinking machine ultimately carry you by itself. Now you can't stop. You are simply a passenger in the thinking machine now. It takes you for a ride, Now that is where the third level or the third step, you become a victim of that proliferation. So this is what typically happens. You are the ones maybe initiating the thinking. Ultimately, you can't even stop thinking. You become overthinking. And you might time to time know that it's useless to think like this. It has already happened. He passed away already. He made the mistake. Oh, I made the mistake. It's already done. Past. But you can't stop. Again, mind takes that same subject, again taking. So it takes, sometimes call it as rumination. You are taking the same subject again and again, rumination. Different varieties are there. So you are maybe overthinking, maybe rumination, obsessions. And I just explained about the I. When you are going through some kind of a form with the I, how this proliferation can happen. Same thing is true for ear. When you hear something, how the same thing going on. When you smell some kind of an odor, the same thing going on. When you go through some kind of a taste, same thing can happen. When you experience some kind of a, tangible, same thing can happen. When you even know a mental thought, same thing can happen. So this is how things are operating. So can you say, this is a whole crazy world we are in. You can understand how complex these things are. So how people are operating with respect to these sense impingements, helpless basically. So we are driven by all these proliferations, and they come to certain conclusions ultimately based upon their imaginations, based upon their proliferations, and they come to a conclusion, they work based on that conclusion, but many influencing factors are there, helpless. So that's why there are various other suttas. So in a way, before getting to various other suttas, so in this sutta itself, Venerable Sariputta give a very interesting verse here. Yocha yo papancha maniyutto papanchabhirato mago viradayiso nibbanang yogakkemang anuttaram. Yo papancha maniyutto, the person who actually devoted to proliferation, who fond of proliferation. Papanchabhirato mago, he is like a creature, like a animal who is addicted to proliferation. Viradayiso nibbanam, he is going far away from nibbana. Yogakkemang anuttaram, which is the complete freedom of existence. Okay, you can simply say the complete freedom or security of bondage. That is the nibbana, the yogakkema. So he is going far away from that. The more proliferation, more inner burning, more burdens, more problems, more questions, more conflicts. So in this Madhupindika Sutta, Buddha say basically all that many conflicts, many arguments, many heartbreaks, maybe many doubts, and taking weapons, taking clubs, all that happens because of this. It's not an easy thing. So we are operating like that. So we have imaginations. We have our own perceptions. We have our own views, maybe wrong views. Or we have conclusions. We have our own standpoints, our maybe ideas, opinions. All are, different names that we have given to these proliferations, and that is how we are operating. Ultimately, we can even kill each other, we can hit each other, everything can happen. So, proliferation plays a huge role in this all conflicts. Now, Venerable Anuruddha therefore mentioned in the Anuruddha Sutta, actually that is Buddha actually have added that, Nippapancharamasayang bhikkave dhammo nippapancha ratino nippapancharamasa nayang dhammo papancharamasa papancha ratino. So particularly the Dhamma, Buddha's teaching is for a person who prefers non-proliferation. Not for a person who proliferates, but Dhamma is for a person who non-proliferate. So we need to turn our, direction. So if we are a person who addicted to thinking, if we are a person that, fantasizing, too much thinking, and ultimately get hurt, quite sensitive, always crying, getting depressed, now we need to change our lifestyle. If we are practicing mindfulness, if we are practicing Vipassana, so we have to pay a very, very strong attention onto this area. So as much as possible, we need to limit too much thinking. Always have to be vigilant. What is this mind is thinking? Because once we give the chance, it's continuously think in the same direction, and it's only you need to initiate. And mind has its own, stored information, stored arguments, stored elements. It will pump the whole thing. Ultimately catch the momentum. Ultimately, you become a victim, simply a slave, something like that. So therefore, before it comes too long, so if we are able to minimize thinking, vitakkas, minimize what we call the papanchas, proliferation, so that's a good thing. So that's why meditation is a real weapon to cut off the proliferation. I mean, even simple meditation techniques like, say, walking meditation. Even you, before reaching any kind of higher attainments or higher insights or anything, even you are trying to develop fair amount of body awareness, proliferation is getting weaker and weaker. That's why maintain as a habit to have at least a walking session just before the day start. So then you can start with a clean sheet. Maybe before the bed, you can have a walking session. So you can give up everything, let go everything, at least minimize, and if possible, go to bed with a clean sheet again. Because during the day, you are accumulating so many things. People are telling this and that, and you have certain arguments, maybe a little bit of heartbreaks, or something you have heard which you don't like, and someone has done something that you can't agree. So you get really little bit of unhappy, little bit of depression, little bit of despair. Many inner hurts are there. At the end of the day, if you are able to relinquish all that and come back to the clean sheet, where you can stop thinking and come back to a silence, inner silence, great blessing. So that is the areas actually we need to look forward in our practice. It is not that we are trying to get jhana and fly and this and that. Rather, how about having a very calm, relaxed inner silence, where you are not suffering, internally quenched. Siti bhutosmi nibbutoti. So that's how very beautifully mentioned by the Arahants. So they simply say, okay, all my cankers, these asavas, influxes was able to give up, uprooted. I have become cooled. I have attained Nibbana. Done. Very beautiful. In a way, very aesthetic. They haven't talked about very, sophisticated rules, and this is the method that I have done. This is the formula, a secret formula, only for my, this people I am telling. No such things. They have done the job and they cool down, calm down, they have quenched, attained Nibbana. So it's a calming down. The Nibbana, the term Nibbana. So what's the meaning of Nibbana? Calming down, relaxing, or we can simply say Nivima. So Nivima Sinhala term is a perfect word in a way. Nivima. So it's calms down. It's not boiling, not burning. Instead of burning, now you are quenched, you are cooled down. Siti bhutosmi. That word Siti bhutosmi. Simply means cooling. Siti bhutosmi, simply cooling down. So what happens when you are thinking too much? The other side, you start boiling because you have many doubts, many perplexities, you don't know what's going to happen next. And you are unpredictable, you start burning, boiling. And away from Nibbana. Now, therefore, Venerable Sariputta mentioned here in this sutta, Yocha papanchang hitvana, nippapancha pade ratu, aradayiso nibbanang, yoga khemang anuttarang. So, he mentioned, Yocha papanchang hitvana, if you are able to give up proliferation, nippapancha pade ratu, now you are delighted in nippapancha, freedom from proliferation. Aradayiso nibbanang yoga khemang anuttarang. The unsurpassed security from bondage, that is the Nibbana. Now you are inviting that Nibbanic state to yourself. You are ready to welcome Nibbana by simply maintaining silence, inner silence, no inner chatter, no proliferation. Not that you are doing very sophisticated things, but you are ready to attain Nibbana. You can see what a prominence given there. What a very important fact given there for non-proliferation. Aradayiso nibbanang yoga khemang anuttara. Very, very beautiful, very powerful teachings. Unfortunately, actually these teachings are not given enough attention. Thanks to Venerable Katukurunde Jnanananda Thero, we were blessed with these teachings. That is the benefit that I am getting from Nissarana, particularly from Katukurunde Jnanananda Thero. So he is the one who has taken this topic to the front You know the Concept and Reality book? So that is the kind of the climax where he is talking on this prapancha. Very, very important aspect in the Buddha's teaching, but not given enough attention during the recent time. Definitely during the Buddha's time, they definitely have given attention. So that's why Buddha mentioned, even in the Dhammapada, Buddha mentioned papancha birata paja, nippapancha tathagata. This paja, this whole human realm, human beings, all folk, papancha birata. So they are fond of, addicted to proliferation. But how about the arahants? Nippapancha tathagata. They are completely free from proliferation. So that is one important aspect of an arahant. So arahant don't have proliferation. They can have vitakkas, they can have thoughts, but not get into proliferation. They can never get into thoughts driving them, obsessive thinking. They can't get into that level. So that's one important fact of an arahant, nippapancha tathagata. And a few more things you can add. So therefore Buddha advice in general during the Yavakalapi Sutta, we already discussed that. Papanchitam bhikkhave rogo, monks. Papancha, the proliferation is a disease. Papanchitam gandu, papancha, the proliferation is a boil. Papanchitam sallang, proliferation is a dart. Tasmatiha bhikkhave, nippapancha ramena cetasa, viharissa mati, evang hivo bhikkhave sikhitabban. So you should decide, you should determine, therefore, I am going to live my life free from proliferation. Nippapancha ramena cetasa, viharissa mati, evang hivo bhikkhave sikhitabban. You should restrain yourself like that. So as a teacher, he is giving a strong advice to all of us. So we should restrain ourselves, thinking, so I am going to lead my life free from proliferation. So that's the direction that we need to, when we are discussing Dhamma, so we need to find out which direction that I have to navigate. So which direction my meditation has to lead me. So why are we meditating? So what is the target? What is the direction my meditation has to take me forward? So how can I see my progress? So this is a very important progressing, the progress indicator. Say for example, 1 year ago, so if you used to think too much, as a result of that you cried several times. As a result of that you worried too much. Sometimes you elated too much. And you had arguments too much with others. You get into conflicts too much. But now, today, if it has lessened, then you are progressing. Because as we discuss, proliferation is one important factor of all the conflicts, all the arguments, all perplexities, all doubts. Many, many things are there. But if you are dealing with the same people, by the way, don't think that you have left them. You are still dealing with the same people. Many problems are still maybe there with them and there are, deficiencies. Many things are there. But amidst all that, you are able to maintain calmness, some kind of a peacefulness. You can deal with them. And internally you feel, even though you are there, internally you feel some relaxation, calmness, no tension, no stress. That means we are progressing. And further, now say, as a result of your practice, how quickly you can return to the inner silence. That's another area we can measure our, the progress. How quickly I can calm down. Does it take hours for me to calm down? Like several years ago, now say for example, when we are practicing walking meditation, so as a beginner, how long it took for you to come to a complete silence? Very difficult. Many thoughts are there. Even the slightest sound make you agitated and you start thinking. If the door closes with a bang, then you start thinking. And maybe if that fly comes, again you start thinking, you start cursing. Many things are there. How about today? Are you able to recover quickly? Are you able to quickly come back to your silence? That is something that we need to check. Am I progressing Am I able to make myself silent quickly than before? Am I enjoying that inner silence a longer period than, say, 1 year ago? So those are the areas that we can really measure our progress. Because sometimes people are telling, okay, Bhante, I have achieved emptiness. What next? How am I going to measure my progress? I am feeling like I am stagnating. Now nothing to do. Because I am in emptiness. So how I know that I am progressing in the same correct direction? So these are the indications actually. They are basically, you feel, okay, I am cool now. No inner burning now. Less inner burning. We can't say, we are not completely free, then we may be arahants. But comparatively, compared to a previous year, now if you have cried less this year, now we are coming end of the year, how many times have you cried? Have your practice helped you to minimize the instance of crying? Has it helped you to minimize tears? Has it helped you to minimize angry moments, arguments, doubts? We can check ourselves. We simply can honestly, you can reflect how I have managed this year. Compared to the previous year, is there any kind of a minimization of all these things? Did I cry less? Did I worry less? Or I am able to maintain a kind of a smooth, calm life compared to the last year? So likewise, we can actually find out our own way of life. So if we are able to sort of calm down ourselves quickly, so that indicates that something is there, some progress is there. So basically, these are the 6 things that Venerable Sariputta mentioned. So if one wants to have a peaceful death, a noble death, so Venerable Sariputta say, so don't get involved in too much activities, too many projects. Have some time for yourself. Then don't over talk. Talk only to the limit. And in the best case, have less inner chatter. Then don't involve too long in the sleep. You need to sleep, by the way, only the necessary amount of time, which your body may tell you. And don't oversleep. And then don't too much socialize. Socializing is a outward making you distracted. But you need certain amount of inward attention to reflect about yourself. So therefore, don't become too much socialized. And then don't have too much dependency onto few people at least. So have a kind of a situation where you are doing your duties, but you are ready to let go at any moment. Even your loved ones. And then the last one, the most important one, have a mind free from proliferation. So if one has all these factors as much as possible, then you can have a peaceful death, a noble death. Don't proliferate. Okay, with that I conclude Dhamma sermon. Thank you very much for attentive listening.